Okay. And are we live? Waiting.
Think so. I think it's good.
We're good?
Yep.
All right. I'm Michelle Rehill. I'm the chairperson of the Northborough Library Trustees, and I call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. It is fully remote. There will be no remote participation by the public. And because we are remote, I will do the roll call. So, Brittany Burns,
Brittany Burns here.
Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, hello.
Amanda DeRosa Millette,
Amanda DeRosa Millette here.
Pat Fonts,
Pat Bond's here.
Jim Hogan,
Jim Hogan here.
Jocelyn McKelney,
Jocelyn McKelney here.
Beth Samus.
Beth Samus here.
Okay, Richard is not with us. I, Michelle Rehill, obviously am here. And we also have with us Library Director Jen Bruno. So, I have one opening remark for tonight. We have a new select board liaison. It's just weird to say that. It's Jonathan Ray, in case anybody wants to know. For the record, that's who it is. So, having gotten that out of the way, would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 20th meeting?
I will move that. Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
I move to accept the minutes of the May 20th meeting.
All right. Are you going to second that one, Jocelyn? Yeah, okay, thanks. All right, again, roll call vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of the May 20th, 2025 meeting as presented. Brittany?
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch?
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Amanda?
I was not there, so I will abstain.
You, that's right. Pat?
Pat Bond's aye.
Jim?
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn?
Jocelyn McKelney, aye.
Beth?
Beth Samus, aye.
And Michelle also says aye. The motion carries in the affirmative with one abstention. Thank you. Next item, the FY25 appropriations report. Are there any questions or comments about the report? Yes, Director Bruno.
I just want you not to panic. There is not actually $36,000 in materials budget left. That's just through May. And thank you to Kate. Hi, Kate, for updating everything. It's up through the end of May. What hasn't been invoiced but has been ordered is roughly $30,000 worth of stuff. Part of that is overdrive. So when we switched from Hoopla to the overdrive cost per circ model, I turned some things on. Just in 10 days, I've had 193 checkouts on those materials, which is really, really good. I've also done a lot of ordering where I can on Overdrive. Some of the titles are available. There's 100 different models for ebooks, and it's the appropriations report. So like, I don't want to get too deep into that, but some of them offer simultaneous checkouts, but it's just like a certain number. So where I could, I went through and bought those instead of the cost per circ, because then you have 100 circulations. It's a little bit easier to manage the cost. So I went through and I did a lot of ordering. It took a lot of time, but I think in the long run, it made it a lot better. Baker and Taylor is our primary source for book ordering, and they've been having publisher delays. A lot of stuff is getting either back ordered or it's just taking a really long time. So we'll go a week and we won't get anything, and then all of a sudden it looks like a book warehouse because we'll just get like 100 boxes of books all of a sudden. So that sort of happened recently. We've of course did our end of the year ordering, which includes a lot of reorders and things like that. So please don't panic. We knew this was going to happen. We have spent the money. We're not in any kind of bad shape. There's a little bit left over because we wanted to leave a little bit of wiggle room to kind of see where the MBLC was with their databases and take our time to really dig into how that's impacting our school-aged population, and have some conversations with Southborough and with the schools collaboratively before we spent that last amount of money. So we're good.
Okay. And you did warn us last month that some of that would happen, so.
Yeah, I know there's only 1 month left in the fiscal year and the numbers still look like, if I was looking at this from your point of view, I'd be like, what are you doing?
We have more books. All right. So if we are all set on the appropriations report, we'll go to the library director's report.
Any questions on anything?
I don't have any questions. Anybody else? Comments, Mitch?
But just wanted to make a comment that I really appreciate all the work you're doing, Jen, on the cost per circ and the other things to make up for Hoopla. As you know, I was both a fan of Hoopla and a non-fan of Hoopla. And it was a good service in certain ways. And I appreciate the work you're doing for making something similar as best as possible available to the patrons. I completely agree with eliminating Hoopla. It was definitely the right thing to do. And I'm glad we're finding some other ways to address the gaps. Thank you.
Yeah, the audiobooks were the biggest,
Yeah.
I think, gap. The music wasn't a heavy hitter. Ironically enough, the CD collection, the physical CD collection at the library is a whole lot more popular than the Hoopla music collection. So the audiobooks were the big thing that it's a little harder to replace, because when people are having, when you were looking for something in your car and you need an audiobook, you need it right now. Take it from somebody who drives 2 hours round trip every day. Like, not having something just isn't an option. So we're really looking forward to looking at the Blackstone product, and hopefully it's comparable. I know Blackstone's catalog really well, and it's really good. So it shows a lot of promise. So hopefully, if the cost comparison works out, we should be able to offer that fairly soon.
I was going to tag on to that. I was very ecstatic when my Libby hold came up like 3 weeks before I anticipated it. So I noticed that in here too. So thank you.
Yeah, we were able to clear between May and June, I think 320 something holds just for Northborough residents with the cost per circ. And like 100 of them were Sunrise on the Reaping. So like it was super easy. Yeah, me too. So some of them were like, there was, I could hear people throughout Northborough just exclaiming when their stuff became available, because some of it was really easy. So now I'm going further down the list to the ones that have there's high holds throughout the system, but maybe only a few Northborough patrons, so they weren't the immediate priority for me, but now that we've reduced some of the heavy hitters, we're going back through and we can turn on where possible anyway, because not everything is offered in that model. So if it's not offered in that model, I'm trying to either buy a copy for our Advantage collection, or like I said, that one copy with, you know, simultaneous use, or just whatever I can do to try to reduce the wait time for that collection, because that is the primary and preferred app for ebooks and audiobooks. Along those lines, not to make this meeting super long, we are looking at a reduction in, so the network is part of Leia, which is sort of, if you go onto Libby, you can look at our collection, our network CW Mars collection, but you can also look at the other Massachusetts collections, and that's through the Leia program. So the Leia content is through a state grant, which if you zoom out, it's kind of complicated, but there is federal money that goes into that is going away. So in fiscal year 25, they got $162,000 to purchase Overdrive content that went into that Leia collection. In fiscal year 26, they are hoping for 70,000. So that's one of the things that's getting, other than all the databases that are getting cut, that's one of the things that we're going to have to really kind of look at, because that program really offers so much more than just our network is really big, so we can offer a lot, but having access to grant funding that allows the entire state to collaborate and share a collection, and having that funding cut, holds are so high and demand is so high for content now. If you take that funding away and then you combine it with these price gouging sort of price models, so an ebook might be $80 to your $25 hardback. So, we need to be looking into some advocacy. And yeah, it's not getting any easier. So not to be doom and gloom, but that's where we are.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to comment on or ask about on the report, the director's report? If not, we will move on to the old business, approving the slate of officers for FY 26. We got that last month. The slate of officers are the chair, Michelle Rehill, vice chair, Jocelyn McElhenney, treasurer, Beth Samus, secretary, Jim Hogan. So you can see that in the report. It's in the minutes from last month. Is there someone who would like to make a motion to accept the slate of officers as presented?
I would very much like to make a motion to accept the slate of officers as presented.
Thank you. Somebody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Brittany. All right, do a roll call vote on the motion to accept the slate of officers as presented. Brittany Burns.
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch Cohen.
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Amanda DeRosa Millette.
Amanda DeRosa Millette, aye.
Pat Fonts.
Pat Ponce, aye.
Jim Hogan.
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn McElhenney.
Jocelyn McElhenney, aye.
Beth Samus.
Beth Samus, aye.
And Michelle Rehill also votes in favor. So the motion passes unanimously Congratulations, everyone. I know you were all biting your nails and worrying. Now on to new business. Policy updates. First one, the exhibits policy. And I believe you said in your report, Jen, that one has been approved or has gone through the admin committee.
Yes. When we looked at this one, we wanted to make some of the language a little bit more clear, and add some of the language, maybe displayed for up to 4 weeks at the discretion of the library director. Well, I don't do the scheduling for the artwork, so, and also it might be longer or shorter. We talk about, the library is not responsible for loss or damage, but we thought it might be prudent to expand on that and just let people know, like, it's in a room that gets a lot of use. So don't put anything in there that is irreplaceable or, invaluable to you. We really, really did not like we added some language in there that exhibits are selected in accordance with the principles outlined in our program development policy, rather than taking all that language and rewriting it. It just seemed easier to sort of refer back, letting people know that we don't have the ability to store their artwork after the conclusion of the exhibit. The one that we really didn't like was that the line that the library reserves the right to remove or refuse material judged unsuitable. I did not like that. I was not comfortable with that. The new language to me is a little bit more like, it's just like the intent of it is to say, like, this is intended for an all ages audience. The meeting room is used by groups of all ages. Just sort of, we have the final authority for all curatorial decisions. Not, we're judging your material unsuitable and we're going to take it down. And then the last part, we do allow artists to sell their work. I mean, that's part of the reason that they want to show it, right? And it seemed very silly to say that they couldn't post the prices, because then people were just coming to the circulation desk and asking for the prices. So saying that they couldn't post it, it wasn't working. So in reality, it just seems easier to say, you can post your prices, but here's the size that is acceptable. And we can't take money or facilitate the sale in any way. And we'd really like it if you not leave a gap in the collection by taking it down and selling it to somebody before the end of the exhibit. Although, if there's an extenuating circumstance, I will use my discretion in that case, but it's good to have the policy language in there. And we've talked to artists about that before, and they're generally fine with that. And then, yeah, we've just changed. The last one was changing director to staff. Any questions on that one?
I have one, I think just minor question that I didn't catch until just before the meeting. Items on exhibit in the public meeting rooms must hang on the wall using the existing hooks. Totally makes sense for items that are going to hang on the wall. Is it intentional that items can only hang on the wall, or could items be placed on the table or freestanding if they are such items? And
the thing about that is, if they're in the meeting room, they need to be on the wall because other groups will be using that room. So if they were on a table It would really be tough for story time or another group to come in and use the space because they would need the room for if there's tables in the way with artwork,
Yeah.
it really limits how that room can be used. So yeah, we'd really like to limit it to the wall.
Yeah,
So
that was
I
my
had a
only
question.
question.
Oh, I had a question along the same lines in a way. What if someone had a media display? Could it be being displayed on the wall continuously? Would that be okay?
Yes, in the as yet to be written policy for, so we have the touch view and now we have the projector that affords that as a possibility. I don't believe that it'll go in this policy. It will probably go into the policy for using, like, I don't know where that's going to end up yet. But yes, it could, in theory. The exception, of course, would have to be if somebody was using the equipment for a meeting.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, but otherwise it would be fine. And that's a really interesting use. So if the room is not in use, having something running on the projector and just being able to set something up that's just artwork would be really cool. So
Jim,
Yeah.
our policies are always chasing the technology.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions or comments about the policy? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion to accept the updated exhibits policy as presented?
I would like to make that motion to accept the updated exhibits policy as presented.
I'll
Wait,
second.
was it Beth and Mitch? Did I get that right? Okay. All right, so all those in favor of accepting the exhibits policy as presented? Brittany Burns,
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Amanda DeRosa Millette,
Amanda DeRosa Millet, aye.
Pat Fonts,
Pat Fox, aye.
Jim Hogan,
Tim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn McCellany,
Jocelyn McKelney, aye.
Beth Samus.
Beth Thomas, aye.
Michelle Rehill also says aye. The motion passes unanimously.
Michelle,
Yes.
it's Jocelyn. Before we get to the next two policies, I do want to make sure that I share that while the administrative committee did not meet to review these policies, the team was made aware that they were coming to the board and were offered the opportunity to meet to discuss it. Jen had explained to all of us that the changes were really naming. So I just want to make sure that we knew this was coming to the board, is kind of the long way around of saying we knew this was coming. So
Okay, good. Thank you, because I made a note to myself to ask the board, the admin committee.
yes.
Yeah, it was not my intent to circumvent the subcommittee in any way.
I didn't think that you were doing that, but
No.
I wanted the admin committee to be able to say, oh yeah, we knew. Not a
Yep.
problem. Okay, are there any questions about the policy regarding the use of library spaces? Beth?
Just one small thing. In the group study room section, for the quiet study room and the reference room, I was wondering if the language should be more consistent between the two. The first one is more elaborate with 2 desks and 2 chairs each that seat a maximum of 4 people, whereas the next one just says seats a maximum of 4 people. And so I didn't know if.
Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of context for these rooms, because that is actually very intentional. The quiet study room has a built-in desk on this side of the room and a built-in desk facing this wall on this side of the room. They have 2 chairs each that face the wall, whereas the reference room has a table that has 4 chairs at it. So when you're thinking about booking a space, the use really makes a difference. What we had was groups of 4 trying to book the quiet study room for a group project or a group study. And what they were finding was that is not a suitable space for them because there's 2 people facing the wall on either end and they can't face each other. And there's no ability, like you can't move anything to face each other. So the driving force for getting this policy through is now that all of our, to Jocelyn's point, we're always chasing technology. Now that the rooms are bookable online, they're much more popular. And we were running into a lot more issues with people not really understanding what the spaces were. Whereas before they either had to call or come in, and we could explain to them what the setup was and work with them a little bit better on what the appropriate space was for what they were trying to do. Now they can book it online without interaction with staff. So we really want to make sure that people understand what the space is.
So would it make sense to just say in the reference room section, this room has 1 table and seats a maximum of 4 people?
Yes, I'd be good with that.
Thank you. I was gonna say, there needed to be a way to differentiate it. My brain could not come up with something as simple as 1 table and 4 chairs.
That is perfect.
Beth is really good at that.
Yes. And the new language for this policy is the silent study area. So this has actually been in practice for about a year. We turned I think everybody just calls it the internet cafe, though it is neither a cafe nor the only place where you can access the internet. So it's now the silent study area. It's that back area in the old part of the building on the 2nd floor. We did not have any kind of language that explained what that was. And it's just so that people can find it and know that that's an area where they can expect to be able to sit quietly, because it is something that people ask for a lot.
Any other questions or comments about the policy? If not,
What
Um,
happened to the local history room? I noticed
It's
that
actually
was
been a
crossed
staff
off.
office it's been a staff office for a year. And again, it wasn't worth updating the policy because everything was booked on paper. But since we were updating this policy, it was prudent to take out that language.
Where did the materials go that were in there? I haven't been in since.
A good portion of them were donated to the Historical Society. We had tracked usage of that room and all of the materials for about 5 years and found that very few of them were used. It was mostly the yearbooks. So we kept the yearbooks. Those are behind the reference desk. Everything else that wasn't duplicate, like in other words, the Historical Society didn't already have it, we donated to them. A lot of that was like books written by people that used to live in Northborough, family histories, things like that. We did keep circulating copies of like the Northborough history and Worcester County history and things like that. We didn't throw away anything unless it was a duplicate and moldy, which was like a few things. And then anything that was library history related went into archival boxes, and I still have it.
But Old Town annual reports.
I checked with Andy. He verified that he has all of those. Like I sent him, this is every year that we have. He said, I have all of those. You don't need to keep them. So we did not keep those.
Okay.
But I did check with him first.
Okay. if
Any other-
anything like that comes up again, I would be happy to if you're going to be discarding something like that, I would be happy to debind them and throw them in my scanner. Like
Mhm.
I would love to have. I think that it would be helpful if the town had those old annual reports electronically.
Oh, I just lied to you, actually.
Okay.
Sorry, while I was thinking of it, I realized that after Andy verified that he had them, I asked the Historical Society, and a lot of them they did not have.
Oh, okay.
So I gave them to the Historical Society. So they're still,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm sorry. It was so long ago. As it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, this is
So
wrong.
those are the only items in that room I ever went into. So,
Yep.
but
But there is
they
still,
exist.
there's still a few things that I was hoping the Digital Commonwealth would be able to take and scan for us. It was a project that I believe Donna had started a few years ago. We need to have everything cataloged. And so if you're not familiar, the Digital Commonwealth will scan collections for free and return back, they return the originals back to you, they make them available, and all they ask is that you make these available to the public in their collection. So it's a really good service. I don't know, I think last time I checked in with them, their timeline was a few years out. So if there's I'll check, or I'll have somebody check. If there's anything that you might be able to scan for us, then, because there's some things that are like slowly dying because they're not in archival storage. They're in
Yeah,
the library.
the scanner I have would require the book to be shredded, the binding to be torn off and just put
Yep.
into a sheet fed scanner.
Well, we
I've
have a
got
number of pamphlets and things. You know what? I'll email you.
Okay, yeah, yeah. If I can do something to help, I will.
We're descending into
Yeah.
I see the faces. I'll email you.
Wait, is this the library space issue? I don't think that's in the policy.
No, it's no longer related to policy.
Okay. All righty. So back to the business at hand. Use of library spaces policies. Anyone have anything else to say that's actually part of the policy?
I did have one more comment on the
Yeah.
silent study area, and this is nitpicky, but I wanted to ask the question. I know it says this includes but is not limited to, but I wondered if rustling papers, I don't know, that one just jumped out at me as like people could get argumentative about what constitutes rustling papers and what's turning a page and what's I don't know. I just wanted to mention if that was almost too exhaustive for a includes but is not limited to list.
The reason that it's in there is because it's number one, I found it in a lot of policy language when I was looking for. It is something that happens a lot
Okay.
where people are like, they're going through like stacks and stacks of their research. And the important part is if you skip to at a noise level that disturbs others. So it is a little bit subjective, but turning a page generally isn't something that's going to disturb somebody. But if somebody is clearly like, they just printed the internet and now they're like collating, 5,000, which it happens. It happens actually fairly frequently in our library.
All right.
There's just like a
you.
better space maybe for them. Generally they do it near the printer, but yeah, it's to make it clear that the area should be as silent as possible. So if you're doing anything that could be obnoxious to somebody else, you should do it in the other part of the building.
Fair enough. Thank you for addressing that.
You should be studying, not collating,
Yes.
I guess. All right, was somebody else going to say something before I interrupted? No? All right, then if we are done with this, would someone like to make a motion to accept the updated use of library spaces policy as amended.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, so Jim, you moved that, and Mitch seconded. All right, so roll call vote. All those in favor of accepting the use of library spaces policy as amended. Brittany Burns,
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Amanda DeRosa Millette,
Amanda DeRosa Millette, aye.
Pat Fonts,
Pat Fonts, aye.
Jim Hogan,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn McKellarney,
Jocelyn McKellarney, aye.
Beth Samus.
Beth Samus, aye.
Misha Rehel also says aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And then the former room of requirement, now called children's program room policy.
Yes. Again, it goes back to the room is now bookable online. Having never read Harry Potter, it took me an embarrassingly long time to know what the room of requirement meant. I had no idea what my staff were referring to for the longest time. And it's entirely reasonable that patrons may not entirely understand what that means. So, and the other part of this is there is only child-sized furniture in that room. There are very tiny chairs and very tiny tables. And so if somebody is looking for a space to have a business meeting, and as often happens, the conference room and the meeting room are both booked, and they see this other space that has, you know, a number of chairs and tables, and they think, oh, the capacity of this room is, you know, 40 or whatever it is. They book it, and then they have to sit in chairs that are about this high off the ground. And while that might be entertaining to some people, it's probably not the greatest customer service to offer that. So we just wanted to make it very explicit by renaming it Children's Program Room, and adding that language in there that the furniture in there is designed specifically for use by children's groups, so that, you know, we don't accidentally have the Rotary Club or something.
I need to say, no, I don't really need to, I want to say that I did in fact attend a meeting in that room. And we knew going in that we were going to a meeting in a room that had tiny little chairs and tiny little tables. It was not comfortable, but we did it because we needed to.
Kind of a way to keep the meeting short, isn't it?
It actually was very effective at that.
There is
You
a
are
play
correct.
rug on the other side, so if your group is very small and you want to sit on the floor crisscross applesauce, you could do that.
I believe that I did end up just sitting on the floor. But anyway.
Then just one question for clarification. Under reservations and use, the first bullet says reservations must be made with the children's department. Is that still accurate if it's online booking? Or should it say, like, I think the earlier one said maintained by?
I think that bullet should be just stricken out.
Okay.
They used to maintain the calendar for that, and that is no longer the case.
Mhm. Thank you for catching that, Brittany. I read this thing
Yeah.
twice for any weird things and still read that line and did not say, wait, the whole point of this is so that people will know it has tiny furniture when they reserve it online.
3 of us read this and didn't catch that. We only looked at the red text and we were like, yeah, it's fine.
The other question I had too, in that first paragraph, after all the red text, there's a line that says it's unavailable for uses not deemed to be in the public interest of the community as determined by the Board of Trustees such as commercial or individual use. And I wonder if we just use the same language about the policy we worked on previously. I'm forgetting the name of it.
Does the language differ from that of the meeting room?
Yeah, and
Okay.
whether we want to refer back to, I think it was in the first one, the exhibits policy, right? If we want a program development policy, that's what I'm thinking of. If those are the guidelines we're talking about, or are they different for the children's room?
So these should align with the meeting room
Okay.
and conference room policy language. If you're comfortable, I would ask that you approve the changes with the bullet stricken out. And then the administrative committee could go through and do a second update to compare this language to that language and make the two the same.
Sounds good.
Because it sounds like maybe I have to go back through. There's probably some other language in here that doesn't match.
Yeah, I think for consistency, it probably makes sense for them
Oh,
to
yeah.
be the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe have one meeting room policy that describes in general, and then sub policies for each of the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this could probably be wedged in or merged into that one.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we have meeting and conference room. So it could just be, yeah. Okay, administrative subcommittee, we've got some work to do.
In that case too, you might want to pull the section on teen and adult program room and add that in there too. Make sure all of those, anything that's labeled as a program room, right, should probably be in the same.
Yeah.
So the program room is a little bit different because we don't allow public. The children's programming room is used for programs, but it is also a bookable space. The teen and adult programming room is not a bookable space.
Got it.
So it falls under the use of library spaces.
Got it.
Probably all should be, and then it gets to be too long, right? If we put everything into one policy, then it gets to be too long and confusing. And I think
that makes sense.
Yeah. But this one could probably go together with the meeting and conference room.
Okay. So at this time, we want a motion to accept if a policy changes names, do you have to mention that, by the way? Because we're getting rid of the room of requirement and calling it the children's program room.
Michelle, I was also going to ask if it makes sense, since we're going to go back and make more changes, to table voting on this one for now.
Yeah.
Could I please beg you not to?
On account of the size of the furniture.
And the reason is
because it is bookable.
Yes, because if you table it, then we have to use the existing policy on the website. And that leaves a little bit of
and the name change too, right?
Yeah, it just makes it really confusing for people when they're trying to book that room. And it's a lot of work on the back end for staff who are going through and looking at these reservations and going, this is not this is not a children's meeting.
I hear you. I think my discomfort is putting something to a vote for approval, knowing that there's going to be a change. So I think it would make sense to approve the updated name change, the language as is, with the understanding that the administrative committee will take this up sooner than later and make the appropriate changes to get all the language in. So recognizing that we need to get something up because this is a publicly bookable room, to clarify for folks that they don't want to sit on teeny tiny stools, and so both, and we're going to prove it now, and then we're going to bring it back pretty soon.
I think it's easy enough that we could have it for our next meeting.
Okay. Michelle?
Um,
That-
so you want us to approve this one and we will go back and fix that? Are you
Mhm.
still saying that? Or are you saying?
I'm saying approve it as it sits with the striking
That one strike.
reservations supposed to be made with the children's department. Like I'm comfortable making that change
Okay,
and then voting
Yep.
on it as it stands. And then to the point of making the language match, we'll bring it back. We'll bring an updated policy to another meeting for another review, vote, and approval.
okay, got it. I
Right.
did follow that. I wanted to make sure.
Would you like that motion?
Did you catch all that, Mitch?
No, I can
Here's
can
the
state
thing,
it.
if somebody makes that motion, they need to write it down.
I was gonna say.
And
I'm
email
gonna
it to Jim.
suggest-
Okay, hold on.
I'm gonna suggest that Jocelyn write that down to the best of your ability and then email it to me. I think I caught most of it as I was taking notes here, but if you could do that, that would be really helpful.
All right. I have transcript running, so I'm gonna say my say and then I'm gonna copy and paste it. Bear with me. I move we vote to accept the newly named Children's Program Room Policy with the amendment as stated under reservations and use.
Thank you.
Okay.
Someone like to second that motion?
Would you, before I second it, do you want to add in a qualifier that it will come back within 90 days for further reconsideration?
With the understanding that we'll come back within 90 days for further consideration.
Oh, I like that motion even better. All
I
right,
second.
Pat, you seconded that one?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor of accepting the motion as made by Jocelyn, Brittany Burns,
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Amanda DeRosa Millet,
Amanda DeRosa Millet, aye.
Pat Fonts,
Pat Fonts, aye.
Jim Hogan,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn McElhenney,
Jocelyn McKelney, aye.
Beth Samus,
Beth Thomas, aye.
and Michelle Rehel says aye as well. The motion carries in the affirmative and it is unanimous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Administrative subcommittee can look for a doodle poll from me soon.
Now we should book this meeting for this room for the next in-person.
It'll be in the children's program room, yes.
We'll sit on the tiny
And we'll be sitting on the little chairs.
chairs.
And they are really tiny.
Yeah.
Richard will be really confused about.
Jimmy,
He
you
can sit
take minutes
crisscross
on
applesauce.
crayon.
All right. I think that brings us to the end of the regular stuff. The date of the next meeting is July 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Are we remote or in person? We are remote.
I think we're remote.
So it will be remote. All righty. Is there any other business that may come before the board at this time? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Do I have to email that one to you too, Jim?
Wait, who seconded that one?
I did.
Thank
Beth
you,
Thomas.
Beth. Right. All right, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting, Brittany Burns,
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch Cohen,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Amanda DeRosa Millet,
Amanda DeRosa Millet, aye.
Pat Fonts,
Pat Fonts, aye.
Jim Hogan,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn McElhenney,
Jocelyn McKelney, aye.
Beth Samus,
Beth Thomas, aye.
and Michelle Rehel also says aye. So this meeting is adjourned at 7:53 p.m.